Hello, friends. Thank you for taking a few minutes to be with me today. Well, we're in the home stretch in our reading of the book of Jeremiah, aren't we? I think our last reading in this book is scheduled for August the 26th, which is less than 2 weeks away, so we're just about finished. And wouldn't you agree that it's been a great study together? A long one, but a good one. And here's what I have in mind. I'd like for us to study a New Testament book next, preferably one of the shorter books of the New Testament, like Philippians or Titus or James or 1 Peter, one of those 4 books. And I really hope that you are already determining to continue to study with us and to remain in this online community. I think it's really great that we can do this together. I think it's beneficial for all of us. So I hope you'll continue, but I would like for this to be a group decision somewhat as to which book we're going to read through. So if you drop me a line, share your preference, give me your input, I would appreciate it. Again, tell me that you'd like to read either Philippians, Titus, James, or 1 Peter, and we'll make plans to start. Now, today I want us to think about a few selected passages from this text, Jeremiah chapter 50 through chapter 51 and verse 14. And as you have known in your reading of this text, this is a collection of Jeremiah's oracles against Babylon, the central theme of which is the overthrow of Babylon and the restoration of the Jews to their homeland. Now, you may have had several questions as you read through this text. Feel free to share those. I want to share with you one question that I've had as I read through, and here it is. Why would God bring down the nation that he so recently used as an instrument to punish his own people? Seems kind of strange to me, really, that God would use Babylon to bring down his people, and then immediately we have oracles from Jeremiah that God is going to bring down that nation that he used as his servant to punish his people for their sin. Why? Well, I've been thinking about that. The point is surely made elsewhere in the prophets that the Lord may appoint a nation to fulfill a purpose as his servant. So we've read that God is using Babylon as his servant to fulfill a purpose to punish Judah. But what I have learned is that this does not absolve such a nation like Babylon from the consequence of guilty acts or an insolent attitude. God still holds that nation, his servant, accountable to his will and to his purposes. So Babylon has been worshiping the idols. They've been depending upon Bel, the storm god, and Marduk or Merodach, the chief god of the Babylonian pantheon. They've been worshiping idols, and they are immoral as well, and God does not absolve them of guilt, even though he's going to use them to punish his people. Interesting, don't you think? Also, in order to bring about the release of his children, the exiles, the remnant from Babylon, and the fulfillment of his promise to do so, well, Babylon's power has to be broken. And so God is going to break Babylon's power using the Persians in order to fulfill his promise to his people to grant freedom to the remnant of Judah. Well, interesting, I think. So, the Lord has a plan, and there is no power on earth that is going to be able to frustrate his divine intentions. Now, I want to make a few comments on just a few verses in our text. Let's look first of all at chapter 50 and verses 2 and 3. Where Jeremiah says that Babylon's gods will be put to shame. As I said, Bel was the storm god, and Merodach, or Marduk, was the chief god of the Babylonian pantheon. Verse 6, Jeremiah accuses the shepherds of Judah. That would be their leaders, the kings, the prophets, the priests. They had forgotten their own fold, Jeremiah says. That is, the place where they were cared for and nurtured by the Lord, the true shepherd, they had forgotten that place. Verse 11 of chapter 50. In ancient Israel, a man's heritage was the land that he had inherited from his ancestors. And I like this verse because we learn that the land of Israel is here pictured as the Lord's heritage. I think that's interesting. Israel is God's inheritance. Verse 17, Jeremiah introduces Israel as a scattered flock chased by lions, that is, enemy nations, defined as Assyria and Babylon. Assyria first fed on Israel when they invaded and destroyed the northern kingdom in 722 BC. Then more recently, Babylon gnawed the bones of Israel by destroying the southern kingdom and taking them captive in 587 BC. But the time is coming, Jeremiah says, when the remnant will be forgiven, verse 20, and their sins will be completely obliterated. God will look for their sins, but he will not find them, because he will have forgiven them. Verse 25, Jeremiah wants us to know that the work of overthrowing Babylon was the Lord's work. He's going to use Cyrus the Persian to accomplish his purpose. Verse 34, we learn that the Lord is Israel's Redeemer. I like that word. It's rarely used in the Old Testament. The Redeemer, or advocate, in normal life was a kinsman redeemer, who took it upon himself to avenge the murder of a kinsman, or to protect a kinsman, or to secure his freedom, or the release of his property. You might take a look at Leviticus chapter 25 or Numbers chapter 35. Here, God is pictured as a defendant, as a defender. Israel is the defendant. God is the defender in a court of law, and here he promises he's going to be Israel's advocate, Israel's kinsman redeemer. I like that thought. Chapter 51, verse 10. We learn that Babylon's fall was a vindication of Israel. Now, it's not that Israel was guiltless or that she did not deserve the divine judgment herself, but she has now received from the Lord adequate compensation for her iniquities. Now she will be reinstated and shown to be what she really was, the Lord's elect nation. Chapter 51, verse 13, we learn that the thread of Babylon's life is about to be cut. And this is a metaphor taken from the world of weaving. I'm not familiar with that, but some of you may be. Babylon is compared to a measure of cloth that has been cut from the loom. It's a figure of death. And then verse 17, the Babylonian gods are compared to the one true and living God. They will be impotent in the day of emergency. But the Lord, well, there is no impotence in the Lord. There's a lot here we could apply, but I just want to briefly state what impressed me in this text. What struck me in this passage was that the Lord has plans for his people, and that there is no power on earth that will frustrate those plans. He has intentions for us. Now, that should be a comfort to us, that God wants to use us to accomplish his purposes, and that God will take care of us, and in the end he will save us. And this should be a comfort to us, that this is God's plan, and there is no one or no power on earth that can frustrate that plan. God who plans, and the God who carries out those plans. Aren't you grateful he's your God? I am too. Don't forget to let us know which New Testament book you'd like to study next. We'll be making a decision in the next week, and we'll let you know from there. But we hope to start that after Labor Day. It's been great having you in our Praying Jeremiah online community, and I hope you'll join us in a study of a New Testament text. The books will be shorter, the daily readings will be shorter, and it'll be a great study together. God bless you.